This video covers filter panes. We'll be showing how to change reports to be filter panes, how to change the settings, how to use the default content or link to other reports using filter panes, and further customization options. To start, we'll show a standard Sharperlight query with the default report type in the web. The filters appear as prompts at the top of the page. Now let's change this report to use filter panes. We want to go to the Options tab and change the default type of report from Table to Filter Pane Left. Refresh the report in your browser and you should see filter panes on the left side of the screen. If you choose Filter Panes Right, it'll be the same but on the right side. You can interact with your query filters within the panes, and notice that the query auto recalculates every time a change is made. Some of the filters allow for from and to ranges, and do not auto recalculate. You can click on the search icon to bring up a small lookup to select from, or manually enter the from and to range. When you're done, click on the refresh icon and the query will recalculate. At the top, you can see a toggle for Apply Locked. When on Apply, the report will recalculate on every filter change. Toggle it to Locked and you can make changes without recalculating. Then, when you're ready, you can toggle it back to Apply and the report will force recalculate again. When you load up a filter pane report, Sharperlight has some default properties it will generate that you can adjust. You can set the Apply Locked default setting here in the Publish Report settings. Another default behavior is based on how many filters you have. The panes will on startup be collapsed or expanded. If we add more filters to this report and load it again, the filter panes will begin collapsed. Let's have a look at some of the different types of filter selection types we have. We have a standard lookup, a radio button for single selection, a from and to range, and a period or date selection. These filter types have been set by default, but they may not always be the type that you want. There are several ways to adjust the filter behavior. For the radio button, it is a single selection, so if you go to the Queries Filter options on the filter, you can change it to allow for multi-select. That was just adjusting the default behavior, but if we want to specifically set the filter type, go to the filter options and then go to Functions tab. There is a section for filter panes here. For this example, I want to only allow for a single company to be filtered on, so I'll select Radio Button. I can set if the pane is expanded or collapsed on initial load of the report, and you can also choose to display by code, description, or a combination. Here you can see the company code and description are both showing, but let's change it to just be the description. We'll also find we can now only select a single company as it's now using a radio button. We'll set up some more filters to auto expand on startup. For another example of setting a filter type, let's add a filter for suppress zero rows. Its default behavior is a bit odd, as it has an increasing or decreasing arrow button. This isn't very visually clear as to what it is doing, so let's change it. In Query Builder, we can see it should be either yes or no. Let's go to the filter options and the functions tab. As we want to allow for a single choice, we'll select radio button. In our report now, in the web, we can see a yes or no option under our filter now. You can change any of the filters to be something like a drop-down, checkbox, or input box, but there are limitations based on the data type of the filter. Going back to the filter pane options in Publisher, let's talk about default content. This allows you to determine what the report will actually show after the filter panes. This means you can link to another report or even the same report with an adjustment. If we get the link for this report and insert it, then change the report type from report to chart, we can see the report now loads the default content, which has been set to chart. If we change the published report's default chart type to be a pie chart instead of a bar chart, we'll see that change happen too. In another report called Filter Pane M1, we'll have a link to another report within the default content. It's not too obvious that the filter pane is passing filters to another report, just from looking, but we can look into the queries. The first report for the filter panes is queried against the chart of accounts table, and has matching filters to the query on the right, which is against the GL transactions table. An important thing to note is the filters only correctly pass to the next query if the filter codes match. So we can see we've renamed any filters that didn't match by default. Next, we can look at the filter pane report that has another filter pane report nested in it. In Publisher, we have 3 reports, with the last one being a standard table report getting its filter values from the previous 2. For this example, the first filter pane query lets us choose a company and period. The next filter pane query lets us choose an account code range and account type. The last query outputs the transaction rows based on these filters. The report also still has its prompts at the top to help show the parameters have correctly passed, but if you're confident, you can hide them. Back on the filter pane options in Publisher, the filter pane title bar just lets you change the description here. For colors or themes, there are a few things you can do. To set the font color, you can set it in Query Builder on the filter by using HTML. This example just has a dev style for red color on account types. In Publisher, you can set the theme to color the panes. We don't recommend this, however, as it is particular to the report itself, and if its default content points to another report, the theme isn't passed down. If we look at a filter pane from a menu report with a purple theme, we can see it passes all the way down.